a lot more cash out of pocket with, hopefully a refinance in 2 years, right? So we never got to that ideal situation. Now because you're a tech company, you've actually made the process quite easy.
Yeah.
It is almost like a few clicks.
Yeah. Technology is great because it's an accelerant for us. So I always try to think of how we can automate people and move them from end to end. But
you're smarter than me. I know. I get
but
it.
no, not at all. But what really I have to attribute to is the founding team, right? There's 4 of us, but each of us cover a very specific part of the journey, right? So Dimitri, he's our head of investments, comes from Starlight, one of Canada's largest private equity firms. So he brings that asset management piece, right? So he can understand how to scale that.
How big is Starlight?
They've got, I think, $25+ billion worth of residential real estate.
Got it.
Both here in Canada and the US. And then Carmen, who is our CPA both sides of the border. So she handles the accounting and tax and entity formation. She knows all of that stuff. So, and then there's Brandon, who's our head of technology. And then there's me that just kind of gets to be on a podcast, right?
Right.
So the subject matter expertise is there.
Yeah.
So now it's like extraction and building a platform that allows others to tap into that expertise without having to kind of bog down the day-to-day.
As much as I enjoy our conversations, I was really excited when I met Dimitri.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, like, I'm very risk adverse. I've seen many bad things happen. I've been through about 5 property managers in Hamilton alone. Just fired my property manager in St. Catharines. Again, the market here is different. Property managers, in my experience here, are generally very, very small shops.
Right.
Rare that they get to 100 doors.
Okay.
Right. And I don't blame them because it's difficult. Right. If a tenant's not paying, it's hard to bill your client for property management, or even just with rent control, right? Everyone's getting squeezed,
right?
And a lot of investors have taken their properties back from property managers because they can no longer afford property management. So PMs are getting squeezed, so it's difficult business. Just like you said, margins are slim,
right?
So I don't fault them. It's just every property manager I find has a shelf life because it's not an easy job.
Right.
So, but when I met Dimitri, for example, you guys are telling me about these. You guys actually have much higher standards for who you hire for property management.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah. So the reason why we want to be asset managers is we want to build such a aggregate portfolio for our clients that we can knock on the doors of the biggest property management companies that service typically only large institutions, because with that kind of volume and scale, they have to have certain expertise in-house on payroll. One specifically we look for is do you have contractors on payroll that only take, that 100% of their work comes from you? That way we have control over the budget and timelines, because they're the ones coming in, doing the renovation work for us. They're the ones slotting their team. So timelines are pretty critical, and same with budget. So the assumption is that if we're getting them to do the reno work, they're going to get the management contract. Now, when they get the it's in their best interest to kind of keep that budget low and then on timeline. If they don't, then we would walk. So we take those types of economies of scale and we pass that through to our clients. So that is sort of our core, where it's we need to work with reputable property management companies that have strong practices, got a good amount of team and good number of doors in that specific geography.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I've never had that experience of working with an institutional level property manager.
Yeah.
And again, in my experience, not many PMs can handle renovations,
right?
Because they don't have staff, and it's a tough business.
Yeah,
it's a tough business to be a general contractor.
Yeah,
right. And then to wear 2 hats, both be general contractor and be property manager, and then it can be risks as well.
Yeah.
If the GC side doesn't work out, you're over budget, you're not on time, then your vacancy is just longer.
Yeah,
client's not gonna be happy. Tenant might be happy because you promised them that you can move in, but you're pushed out 2 months.
Yeah.
Because my experience here is, it's rare for renovations to come in on time, on budget.
Yeah, yeah, and it's tough too because like when a third party contractor comes in, they're bidding on your business and as well as 10 other businesses, and they'll take the highest bidding project, right? So all of a sudden they ghost you, and you now gotta hit the yellow pages if that's still a thing, and find find another contractor.
And then you also help the client up front as well to actually acquire property. Because we were talking before this meeting is that owning property personal probably doesn't make sense to buy in the States.
Yeah, I mean there's liability risk there.
Yeah, I think everyone knows the Americans are extremely litigious.
Right.
I don't see what anyone in their right mind would buy in their personal name.
Yeah. And for an accounting perspective for a foreign national, we advise Canadians to set up an entity, corporation, in the respective state that they're buying, and we'll help you do that. So we've got partners to do that, so we can actually set that up for you, and then buying the house under that entity. And then you can build your credit through that entity, and then eventually that opens up a lot of doors.
How hard is it to create the entity?
Oh, it's very easy. We can set that up in under 48 hours in most states.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. It's the tax ID number that takes a long time. And
Right,
it's
right.
the tax ID number you need to when you go for financing or refinancing or
Yeah.
upon sale.
Because I spoke to one of your customers about this and doing my due diligence on you, and he mentioned how creating an entity was like, it's a lot of upfront work.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That was a different time. Now we do it in-house.
Okay,
we were sending them to a partner and saying, go to this website, sign up here, do this. And he'd ask questions, what does it mean for these shared distributions? I'm like, yeah, now we actually do that internally.
Got it.
Through the same partner, but they've allowed us to take control of the experience.
Right.
So now, because of our sort of onboarding and all that information, we already have a lot of the information we need. So we'll just like, look, let us do it. Here it is. Answer these few questions, and we'll tell you what these questions mean, as opposed to going online and being a number.
But he was buying the property by clicking.
Yeah, he
Right.
has not seen it from what I understand, and I don't think he's either driven there or visited the property either.
He told me he hasn't.
Oh, okay.
My point, though, is that traditionally to buy real estate investments is very different.
Yeah.
You gotta, again, my client typically comes from the GTA, so they're driving half hour.
Right.
If there's no traffic.
Yeah.
If it's a Friday evening and there is traffic. Yeah, exactly. And then for a large period of time, we couldn't guarantee we could still see the property that it wouldn't sell in time.
Right.
So I literally have had clients show up like, sorry, it's sold.
Oh.
You have to go home.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, going through the deal of offering and then home inspection and then getting the contractor to come in, and then you have the person come take measurements for drawings, and your this past customer is just clicking.
Yes. Yeah, we aggregate, we put boots on the ground, so we collate all that information, convert that information into hard, cold numbers, and say, is this what you like? Is this still good for you? So we kind of remove all that risk. But, it doesn't come with some education process. It doesn't mean they can just kind of show up and click. We force them down an education funnel.
Good.
Yeah. So when you sign up and you're interested, we actually send you some of our performas or underwriting and be like, this is your homework. Read this through, write down your questions, and we're going to come back and we're going to meticulously go these lines. And so you understand how we are writing this, understand your upside, understand your downside. And when you give us the thumbs up here, then we'll start searching.
Right.
Yeah. So education is key.
Part of the education, I think that's incredibly important as well, because this came, I've asked you many times, who owns the property? Because my understanding is, just correct me if I'm wrong, is I own the property.
Correct.
No one else owns the property. This isn't fractional.
No.
This isn't shares of a private equity or a REIT.
No.
I own it.
It's your direct ownership. You keep 100% of your upside. Our goal is to stretch that upside.
And I can move into it if I wanted to.
Yeah, if you wanted to, you could totally move in. Obviously we'd have to go through the procedures, but that's not a difficult thing. Yeah.
It's pretty difficult here these days with tenanted properties if you want to move in.
Right. I feel like that is one of the most clear-cut ways to get a tenant out. I'm going to move in.
But I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I love Canada. just personally, I don't want to own a vacation property. I just don't want to be pigeonholed into one place. So it's not, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
My point is I have that level of control.
Correct.
Right, which in my opinion is the proper way to invest. Heavy education, you control the asset. Because if anyone doesn't believe me, just keep following the news on who loses money investing in real estate.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of private lenders are getting whacked. It's all over Twitter. Tons of private lenders are getting whacked.
Yep.
Like their capital's gone.
Yeah.
Right. But I control the asset.
Right.
So I can do whatever I want.
Exactly.